Happy Valentine's Day, people. This is Kathy Couch, and we are here on the Journey Through the Eyes podcast. Tamira is out today, and we are a podcast that's going to unveil and explore the transformative power of EMDR therapy. And our mission is to support clients and clinicians with the critical conversations and resources about EMDR, but also about therapy and business practices. So we have insights from experts in the field. I consider our guest today an expert and fellow colleague. We have Jessica Good today. She's an EMDR certified therapist and consultant in training. She's the owner of Good EMDR Therapy and the EMDR Intensive Group Practice, and the founder of the Good Practice, which is a social learning community for therapists and an alternative place for us to collaborate in the event other platforms may not exist.
Or you just want to get off certain platforms that
Right.
maybe you're not aligned with anymore. Starts with an M, ends with an A. They have the two bigger, social groups there with an F and an I. If you can fill in the words, the letters.
Good. We're so happy you're here today. Do you want to is there anything I missed there in the
No,
introduction?
I mean, you did a great job if we're like breaking it down as bite-sized as we can. That definitely is it. Yeah, that would definitely be it. Sorry for the mouthful. It's a lot of Jessica Good in EMDR, the good practice. It just kind of worked with the names, so it's always funny when I hear somebody repeating it back, and I'm just like, yeah, that's a jumble. That's a
Well,
jumble of words.
my last name's Couch, so therapist with the last name Couch. So,
You get
I always
creative with
kind of,
that.
Wired 360, Willow Creek Counseling, it's like, okay. So, I get it, but I certainly love the branding that's connected to you. So it just totally makes sense, right? So
Thanks.
today we are going to talk about the world of social media strategy. This is more of a collaboration together and more of a brainstorming session. And so I wanted to just kind of the idea here is that we're therapists, not necessarily business owners, right? So
Mhm.
in my experience and working with my consultees, there's lots of questions around business practices. I know you coach and consult with therapists building businesses. And
Mhm.
so, where would you start when you're talking to people about social media strategy and integrating that with their business?
Well, first, if we break it down to marketing strategy, because not every person has to have a social media presence, and not everyone's going to get really big on social media. It's actually a very small percentage of people that will like blow up, as we've seen some therapists, psychologists do, right? We can all think of the different names we've seen around. But for some folks, their marketing might look a little bit different. The question is, who do we need to reach?
Yeah.
What does that need to look like? What is the marketing funnel that's going to work best for you? Because for some people, if you take insurance and you work with kids, pediatricians' offices, get in touch with them, continue to work with them. They always need referrals, especially whenever you're working like with medical providers, unless you're something super niche that has a high demand and no one's doing it with insurance providers, that's where you can go. That's really a great referral source because a lot of their people are looking for that. Now, if you do something more niche like me, so I do EMDR intensive therapy, do it mostly for attachment trauma and wounding as it appears in adults in the areas of love, money, and family of origin issues.
I love
Um,
that. So good. Look at
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. And then we just started this program where we're working, and we know that very few people are going to take us up on this, and that's okay. Like, I am literally launching a program that I know very few people will do, but it will be really wonderful clinical work when we do it, where we're working with dyads, so families, couples, friends or business partners, and each person gets their own individual EMDR therapist, and then we come together for joint processing sessions. So I do kind of like niche work,
Yeah.
and it requires a lot of explanation for people, right? So that is something we're getting out there and spreading information about it and letting people see me, who kind of is the face of the brand, and what my group is all about is really, really important. So it's who do you need to get that message to? Where are your clients at? All of those things that we have to consider whenever we're looking at what is going to be your marketing strategy. Do you need to do social? If you are doing social, what social avenue do you do? Because each platform is different and they have different kinds of experiences.
I think that's really important. We call that like the target audience, right? In regards
Mhm.
to what is your target audience and how do you reach them? How did you decide for your practice kind of what avenues to utilize?
So, whenever I am, first up, it started with a website. I think website creation is super important for therapists. If you don't have that out there, how are you getting found? For me, I do have a background in marketing. I did help people with some social media marketing and other types of um, marketing prior to becoming a therapist. It's one of the things that I did in undergrad and grad school to get myself through school. That was my little side business job thing, right? So I started with my website and built that out really well. So you want it to have great copy, you want it to have great SEO. Those two things do not always play nice together. So that is the first thing that kind of drew people in. Word of mouth as well was really big. I started my private practice in 2020. So that is the height of the pandemic. And there were a lot of people, wanting services at that time. So it was a little bit of luck involved there too. And then I started collecting like, okay, where are or where are these different referrals coming from? So whenever somebody schedules on my site for a potential client call, I'm always asking the question, how did you get referred? I have a whole bunch of questions, like a lot of questions on my little intake that I do, or not intake, but form that they fill out prior to scheduling a potential client call, but that's one of them. And you're always wanting to track where those things are coming from. Now, with social media, it's important. We need to get out there. We need to have some sort of presence. And I did do like a little bit of Instagram stuff. I've since like deleted a bunch of stuff from the page, put some stuff back. Just I don't really mess with Instagram that much. And the reason is because it's just you might get a little bit of traction there, but that's not really where people are truly deeply engaging in the way that I want to engage. And I am a information person. Like I love to share and transmit information and I love authenticity. Instagram isn't the place for that. So after building those cornerstones of my business and deciding to go into social, in part, a client was like, hey, so for those that don't know, I'm on TikTok. I do a bunch of stuff with TikTok and TikTok lives and all of that. I have a very vibrant community over there for my public facing folks and then also for therapists that find me. But part of me lucking into TikTok was a client saying, hey, you should really be on TikTok to spread information about EMDR because people don't know and there aren't enough people talking about it over there. And so I got on it and I realized, oh my gosh, this is where we're having real conversations. This is where we can be authentic.
Oh my
That's my
God.
jam. I want to do that.
Yeah, so Jessica, what you're saying is really important here because when I started my business, I had Willow Creek Counseling since 2017, I think. And my daughter is working at a hospital, and I thought, I don't ever want to be under someone. If I can earn my own money and my own income, I want to do that. And then my twins came in 2020. It's their birthday today. They're 5.
So
So that was a
exciting.
surprise, right? And so then the twins and the pandemic, and I thought, I want to start a business around EMDR because you're right, people don't know about it. And I also want the ability to have a more flexible schedule with my twins. And so then I took some classes at the local college for business and marketing. And then when I'm done with that, and then I'm going like, okay, they say you need to be on all these platforms and do the marketing and this
Not
assessment.
all of
And
them.
I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about this, right? Your comment here. And I'm like, so what resonates and what you just said was something I could not articulate. People are like, go on Instagram. I've had consultants talk to me and say, Instagram. I'm like, I'm not vibing with Instagram. I don't. And I thought maybe it's because I'm older or maybe it's this or that. But then, same thing, TikTok. I
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh, I could be real. I could do, but I also save those videos for other places
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want my content to be gone. So what would you say to
Yeah.
somebody that's starting, on TikTok and some of your learning lessons?
So with that, it does automatically back up each video that you do, and it no longer puts the watermark on there, so that's great. So all the videos that I have backing up in my phone, I can post them over on YouTube, or I guess if I wanted to put them on Instagram, I could. Instagram has a 90-second cap, which is really difficult for an individual like myself that's trying to express big ideas. It's
Okay.
okay for like funny little videos and stuff like that. But the thing is whenever you're doing funny little videos, and I found this like through like researching different people's pages. So you can have a smaller following on, let's say, like TikTok, and you can have a more engaged following. So you have more people going to your website. You have more people reaching out to be a client because they're actually seeing more of you as the professional, as a therapist. Well, also, again, very authentic. I've made, I've done lives and everything like that whenever I have like a house coat on, like
Yeah.
you don't have to show up completely polished all the time. They're just really interested in the content that you're creating. Now, you can do those funny videos and like all those little trends, and everyone's like, oh, do this trend or do this trend. And if you're chasing trends, you're going to get likes. Sure, that's wonderful. But are you going to get actual followers? And are you going to get engaged followers? Are you going to get people that are promoting you, that are like tagging you in other things, that are going to your website, that are investing in whatever products you're selling, that really get behind you and your mission and just you as a person and a professional? And that's just not the case a lot of times, what I've found for folks, because some people might have Instagram followings, but they're not able to mobilize them. They're
Yeah.
not as they might be engaged, but they're not like
In it.
really, yeah, they're not really, and it's like, oh, here's a like, or here's this, that, or whatever. But like, what translates from there? Like, how are they helping propel it forward? And not everyone is going to be a client. I have plenty of people that are very engaged followers on TikTok with me that will never be a follower. One, because they've talked to me too much. So then that would be a dual relationship at that point. And they're out of the states that I work in, but they are people that are constantly promoting my work. They are the people that are constantly like out there rallying for me. And so I find that so much more with TikTok
Yeah.
rather than Instagram, though you can translate videos over. Now, if TikTok does go down again, which they're saying April might be the thing, sad about that because I have a certain follower goal I'm trying to reach that would be
Yeah.
great to reach this year because I'm picking up a lot of steam with that. But if it goes down, I'm on Blue Sky and on YouTube, and I can translate those things. Like I can flip over followers pretty quickly. So on Blue Sky, I have, a handful of followers. I've barely done anything with that except for whenever TikTok closed for like 12 hours. And then on YouTube, I'm shuffling everybody over there for videos because you only need 50 followers to do live. So then I could continue to do lives like I do. And that just picks up tons of followers when you do those.
So let me ask you a couple of questions here. When a client reaches out, you get a client referral. What are the boundaries that you set if it comes from a social media site and they're still kind of following you, commenting? What does that conversation look like face to face, one on one with them?
Yeah, so anyone that would be like really engaged with me, like having a bunch of conversations and everything, I would consider that like a dual relationship. So I'm just like, hey guys, just letting you know, we're like having conversations. Like you can never be a client basically because I don't want to, um, you know, having murky anything there, right? I want it to be very clear with any sort of social media channel that it is not therapy, that, we're not
Yeah,
any of
the
that stuff.
relationship. Yeah.
Exactly. So typically people that I found that are working with me now, there's lots of therapists that have found me from social media, and that's totally fine because that's consulting, that's community building, whatever. For clinical clients that have found me via social media, typically they get exposure to whatever it is that I'm saying, whether they find me on a live or a video or something like that, and then they reach out and we set up stuff and we start that relationship. In my informed consent, there's a part in there about how we respect each other's privacy with personal pages, right? So they are not searching for mine. I am not searching for theirs. We are not learning about each other outside of the therapy room because that's where we keep it, is that therapy room. If they did want to see my professional pages, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, you can't do that or whatever. So I do keep that in mind that there's going to be clients that see the content that I create. So I have to be okay with whatever it is that I am putting out there. I'm not the type of therapist that's like, they can never know anything about me, right? I think
Yeah. Yeah.
I do a very relational approach, so that's not going to work very well. But I do tell clients to not disclose that they are a client on social media and that I do not engage with clients on social media, including my social media, like professional pages. So that's the boundary there is that we're not going to be, going back and forth in the comments. And if you're like, I'm a client, I'm probably going to delete that comment. Like, let's not do that. I don't want you to out yourself because I want there to be a line there. I want to
Yeah.
protect your confidentiality.
So tell me about, so we're looking at these different platforms. You mentioned Blue Sky and YouTube. How do you sort of multi-market the different ways? So you have a video, you have
Mhm.
TikTok. Are you posting it on different platforms? Do you have a system? And what are your strategies for sort of repurposing that content for therapists?
So you can post it to multiple channels. Again, Instagram is 90 seconds, so that's going to be you might have to like splice up your video, which is going to take more time. For therapists, we have, if you're a solo practice, if you are doing your own marketing and everything, you don't have a lot of time. You just don't. So finding the avenues that work best for you, and like let's say you create a video on TikTok, which can go up to 10 minutes. Like you could have a 10-minute long video, create that video, save that video. If you want to, put it out at a different point in time, great, wonderful. If you want to put it out right then and there, you absolutely can, but then you might be editing videos and then that takes up time. So find a channel, find one thing that works for you and keep doing that one thing first for a little while until you master it, saving all of those videos, saving the different content, so then you can recycle it a little bit later once you increase your bandwidth. But don't dive in and be like, I need to manage 3 different channels
Yeah.
and all
Okay.
of that because that's going to be, you're just going to
Keeping it
burn
simple.
out so quickly. But keep that material because you will reuse it in different
Did
ways.
you say TikTok automatically saves the videos, or is that something that you do?
It automatically does. So it automatically backs up to your phone. So whenever you go and you post a video, it'll back it up to your phone or well yeah your phone is where you're going to be using it most likely.
Yeah, so then you save those at a file or something else. So
Yeah.
when you think about, can you share with us how you evolved your TikTok account and what tips you can give therapists if they're looking to
Mhm.
start? You have to have 1,000 followers to be able to go live. So if they're in that transitional period, what would you say to them?
So it used to be 1,000. It's now less, and I know this because of my colleague who I brought on to my practice, Erica, has less than 1,000 followers, and I brought her on as a guest to one of my lives because she couldn't like go live on her own, and so I was able to bring her on as a guest, and she's able to go live, but now I can't make her a co-host. So there's still funky stuff with that, but generally once you get to 1,000, then you can do some neat stuff like with your link in a bio and all of that stuff, right? So, with that, if you're in that transition zone, one, it is hard to build. So, okay, if we're talking about just TikTok here, whenever you first get on TikTok, you first create an account, your first couple of videos are going to get big numbers, and then you're going to see a crash. It happens to everyone, it's completely normal. In TikTok, you don't, everyone's like, you have to post so often, so often. No, what it cares about is consistency. So, if you post one post per day and you're doing it each day, roughly around the same time. It does like to have that same time frame. It's like we know it likes predictability with
Okay.
their creators. So it will continue to put that content out there. Now, some mistakes that people make whenever we're talking about creating videos for social media, whether, Instagram or YouTube or which YouTube is also like another like think tank sort of place where you can just put a lot of information, which is great. Um, and TikTok and all that is you talk too slow, you ramble, you don't get to the point. You're just doing kind of like really cheesy stuff that people have seen done over and over and over again. It's okay to have that video sometimes, but if that's all of your content, you're not going to get those really engaged followers. They're going to be like, oh yeah, this person is entertaining, but I wouldn't want to go to them as a
Yeah,
therapist.
okay.
Yeah, right. Like that's the thing is what are you
Value
intending to
proposition. Yeah,
do?
core
Yeah, what
value
are you,
proposition. Yeah.
yeah. So it's to educate or to entertain. Those are typically like the top 2 that people are working with, the type of videos. Or also to feel seen. That's another big thing. If you can make videos where people feel seen and you're speaking to their experience, we talk about that all the time with copywriting for websites. It's like speak as if you're the client, speak directly to them to feel seen and heard. Doing that in videos can be really wonderful too, and that will get people like, oh, it kind of grab them, and it can be a shorter video too, because you don't have to have like 5-minute videos for everything. Honestly, I would say probably the sweet zone is between that 1 to 3 minute range. So those 1 minute videos, easily translate that over to Instagram if you want to. 3 minutes, you're going to have to splice that up, unfortunately. But so those are some of the like mistakes people are making in their videos. The millennial pause is another thing that you guys might hear about. So it's whenever you get out your phone and you hit record and then you're like, and then da 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 da, and then you start talking. There's that pause right there. Everyone hardcore makes fun of that one. So even if you need to edit that, because you can edit in the actual, like as you're recording, you can edit and pare things down and all of that with TikTok. So that bad lighting can be another thing. People want to be able to clearly see your face, so that they can relate to you. You don't have to have the nicest camera or whatever. I record with my cell phone. Um, it is like the newest version of the Pixel, so it has a pretty good camera, but it just needs to be like clear enough. They like to see your face, all of that. So get their attention, but not being too corny, good lighting, and don't
Art,
take
right? All
forever
of
to
these things, is yeah, all you're saying, it's like all of the things, and then how much time do you spend and investment?
get.
And I learned so a couple of the AI tools in regards to future of social media. I've learned so in here you see my Fathom note taker where it records and takes
Mhm.
notes, and so that's what you'll see in the show notes, which is super cool. I have the Opus AI. Thank you to Rebecca Case on our podcast. She has said she shared this Opus AI where you can
Mhm.
kind of cut the videos and edit them. So that's another tool you can use. And there are some other platforms that you can use for like a teleprompter if you
Mhm.
want to put the content in a teleprompter. So those are a few tools. Do you have other tools as far as AI that you have used or maybe have seen used that our listeners can maybe check out to maybe help them in this process?
So with AI, I, I have a it should be supportive type of approach. So a couple of things for that as well, like you were mentioning, with the note taking and everything. So if you guys ever do like a Google Meet recording, it'll automatically create a transcript for you. It's just included in Google Meet, so that's kind of helpful. And then with the Opus AI, and I do need to check that out because I remember you saying it last time. I'm like, ooh, I wonder if it does better edits because whenever you go live on TikTok, and you could do a live that's only to your followers, or I think you can do a private live, like I think how we're recording with this, and it will automatically pull out little segments of stuff. So if you're going live and like let's say a lot of it's to other people and there's a lot of viewers, there's a lot of gifts that are given at that time because you can monetize through that. I wouldn't say it's a bunch of money, but it can add up to a little bit, buy yourself a coffee or something over time. Um, but it'll snippet those for you. So that's a really great thing about TikTok is it'll actually pull out little snippets for you. You can go in and edit all those videos and then post straight from the platform. It is like the best platform for creators, and I really hope that it doesn't go away. There are some other apps in the work, like the Neptune app. I'm so excited for that, and it won't be launching for Android until summer, but it is launching for Apple, so iOS in springtime, and that is gonna. It's supposed to be like a mashup of TikTok and MySpace,
Oh
and
my
I'm just
goodness,
like, oh my gosh, yes. Millennials unite, right?
yeah, for us old school, that was my first page, right?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, like your top friends and what it would say, because I was in the high school, and middle school and everything like that
Yeah.
with MySpace, and it'd be like, who's your top three? Who's your top five? Who's your top seven? Like how many you'd have, and the more reductive you would be. It was like a whole social experience. It was interesting. So I'm curious what that's going to look like, the MySpace thing, component of it that people have talked about. So, There are some things that are already incorporated. And I think the simpler we can make it, the easier, the less tools. Because, like, as you build and you're doing things like Kathy over here, who has a podcast, is doing all of these different things, trainings and consulting and all of that stuff, then you do need more tools like that. But whenever you were just starting out, let's make it as basic as
Yeah,
possible. Now you can use ChatGPT for ideas if you want to. So, like, hey, this is my ideal client. Give me 50 prompts for videos that would, appeal to that ideal client,
the fire
things that they
persona
would want to
process.
discuss.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can use it for idea creation. I think AI is great for collaborating creatively, especially if we don't have a team that we're doing that with.
yeah.
Um, so that's good. They can't obviously make the videos for you because it's you. If you are doing you video based for your stuff, which can be very powerful, it builds up your brand, you as the brand. I think that's huge, but you can get ideas from it. And another area that I love working, if we're talking about marketing, it's not just social media. We're talking about your website and SEO and everything else like that. If you're not making videos for people, write blog articles for the people and make sure that they're SEO friendly, because if there are certain topics that people are searching for and there's not a lot of content in that area, okay, well, here we go. So one AI thing that I do like, do not use AI to write your your articles, your website copy, or anything else like that, guys, because you will get a hit from the search engines. They don't like it. But again, idea creation and to double check your work.
Mhm.
So I use ScaleNut to double check my writing because it'll give me an SEO score. It'll tell me like what it is that I'm missing and suggest some different things that I could, manipulate, move around and everything in order to do that. Now it'll create a whole article for you, which is great, but it's going to be recognized as AI, and then your website's going to take a hit.
Now, is that
So,
free? Is that a free service that you can sign up for? Or is that paid?
oh, it's going to be paid, but
Okay.
you can do a pretty basic version of it where you don't have to, because it's basically I'm using it in a way that it wasn't necessarily
Oh, okay.
designed
Uh-huh.
specifically to do. So if you use like the basic one where it like will check, it'll give you like a score and everything like that. And I think it's like $10 or so per month. Don't quote me on that one though, because it might be more
Like for
now.
Opus AI, it has you do your video and it has clips
Mhm.
and then you put them on the different medias. I do that for everything but YouTube because I can put the whole video on there and they don't necessarily want
Yeah,
unless they're shorts, which you can
exactly.
also do. So that's kind of the thing with Opus AI. You can edit your B-roll. It'll give you some of that,
Mhm.
the hashtags, and you do want to make sure that you're editing that, but it can schedule out for like a month. So when I'm working on my 12-week
Mhm.
launch plan, for a training, I use that and I put the content, like for my grief and loss training, that content
Mhm.
for that month is all grief and loss related. And so that would be a marketing strategy that you can use to be able to do a 12-week launch, which I'm trying to help therapists learn how to launch their trainings with ease and
Mhm.
confidence instead of just struggling like I did. A lot of my services have been out
Mhm.
of out of my own internal stress, right? And it's like, let me just help you and give you some tools to help you. The other tool that I used in my writing and trainings is you.com. It is a paid,
Mhm.
but you can look to get content that's related to research within the last 5 years, which is
Yes.
APA. So I can find all my grief and loss articles. I spent hours going through all of the content,
Oh
reading
my
all the
gosh,
literature.
yeah.
And guys, really, this will save you a ton of time. It does kind of come up with some wonky things, but if it's a general topic like death, dying, and bereavement, even EMDR, it will get you those articles within the last 5 years. Isn't that awesome?
That is amazing because that is always the densest thing. Oh my gosh. I remember doing so like with all the research in undergrad and then grad school
Yes.
doing that and then having to find the source and it's like
Yeah. And you go
it's so
to
dense.
PubMed or like Sensible and
Uh-huh.
you're looking at all the articles going like, this is so overwhelming. So I think there are
Hmm.
tools that you can use. We also talked a little bit about documentation. I have in my documentation course, I follow Barbara Griswold, and she's what is she? The maze, insurance maze. And she talks
Mm,
about using AI and documentation and making sure there's a business associate agreement if you're going to use that. But also what
hmm
you had been saying is like, make sure if you're using that, it's generated, you edit the content. And there's two theories. One, it can help you increase your quality of your notes, and the other is it takes up the same amount of time. So just make sure that you're following those requirements. But you can use that, I think, in my I use Simple Practice. They have like a template that you can use, also
mm,
a new template maker. So just kind of looking at the tools and working in your comfort level, because we do want to make sure we have this ethical practice and really speak to the patient. I have a
mm,
question here about monetization. You kind of
mm.
touched on that. What are some strategies that you use for monetization and passive income, where you're getting those cup of coffees in your bank account on a regular? Can you share a little bit about what that journey's been like for you and some places to start?
So you can monetize through an app like TikTok because they do have the creator reward type stuff. They do have where people can gift you things in live, all of that. You could do TikTok Shop, which will get you commission on products and everything. But the thing is that that's not actually where a lot of the money comes from. It comes from people being interested enough to click the link in your bio and then go to all the things that you're offering there. So I use bio sites for that link in bio thing because I use Squarespace for everything and it comes with it, which is lovely. And then you just want to make sure that you have some certain things. So like whenever I'm talking to individuals, they're looking for an EMDR therapist. Again, not everyone is going to be able to go to me, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. So I created a blog article, How to Find an EMDR Therapist. By the way, if anyone would like to link that on their site, feel free. I love a backlink. Just make sure you are not copywriting or you're not using my copyrighted material. Um, but with that, a lot of people will go to that. They'll look at the rest of my website. It gets more traffic to my website. They look at the other things that I'm offering. So finally here at some point, because I've been dragging my feet since postpartum, of doing, I have the course for individuals, the community, public facing, mostly done, but I need to do, of course, the recording part of it. Um, and so it's like 20% still that I have to do. And once I launch that, then there's a lot of people that like, oh, they're already going to be clicking on that. They're going to then be clicking on the offers that I have for that for nervous system regulation and coming up with effective resourcing and coping. There's that. There's my most recommended books. So you can get affiliate links. You can put up books. You can put up products that you really like. And if people want to engage with that, they can. That'll get you a little something there. You can use the content that you create for your website, your blog articles and everything. You could post that over to places like Substack or or expand on those articles and put it into Substack or to Medium. And both of those are going to get you money through that if people want to view those things. So those little things can get you bits of money and everything, but it's whenever you have those offers that people are then looking at. If you have a public facing offer, so for people in the community, they really like how you speak about different things. They want to know like some quick tips or something else like that. You could do a small ebook, you could do a small course, you could do all sorts of things if you wanted to with that. For me, I have a public facing arm and then I have a clinician facing arm. And so I have a lot of clinicians now coming into the good practice so that we can have our own social community over there, and also because they want to learn things about EMDR and they want to learn things about business, and those are then those paid sub communities. So
So
you can
important.
get very creative.
Happy that we're talking together because it's very rare that we find clinicians that want to also build business. So I'm so happy with our collaboration because I want to tell people if you're in private practice, you're a CEO, you're a business owner.
Yeah.
And validating that they just think, oh, I just work to see a couple clients. Let's get that out there. What are your goals?
Mm-hmm.
What's your mission,
Mm-hmm.
and how to be able to help them with that. I wanted to hit on copyright. You've mentioned that a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times. Can you explain what copy is? I had somebody doing some posts and she said, you want to make sure there's good copy. And I was like, what is this? So I'm sure other people have that same question and how that word is used and copyright. Can
Yeah.
you explain that process?
Yeah, so copy, that's the words, that's the phrases, the sentences, all of that you put out there. So it can be the copy that you're putting into your content on social media, it can be the content that's on your website, whatever it may be. Whenever you are creating your website, you do want to put that you reserve all rights to the material on the website in the footer of your website or something, someplace where it's seen and it's visible and that content belongs to you. That is your original words and everything, so people aren't just like straight up plagiarizing your work. And you typically want to put the year that was done on there. So that's important for your website. Copywriting in general, it is an art form. And then, like I said, copywriting and SEO don't always play nice together because great SEO might look different than great copywriting. They're merging more together now. That's what um, the search engines want. They want something that's engaging. You want to have copy that is resonating with people, but it also has the different keywords in there. And you don't want to keyword stuff, meaning that there's so many in there that it's like, oh, it's actually a negative and it's
Yeah.
repelled by the search engines because it's seen as keyword stuffing. But you want it in there enough that it will pick up in the search engines, but that it flows well enough that people are reading it. And you actually want a website that has some robustness to it if you can, because the more that people are clicking around your website, the more that they're staying, that decreases your bounce rate. And your bounce rate is actually whenever people click on the website and then click off immediately. And if you have a high bounce rate, then Google is saying like, oh, they don't have that valuable of content here, or what it is, for this search term, if somebody clicked on and clicked off really fast, it doesn't actually qualify for that search term. Like that's not
Oh,
really what it relates to.
okay.
So copy is very important because it engages the person that's viewing it, and you want to make sure that that copy is protected by, saying copyrighted material of, the good or good EMDR therapy. I almost said the good practice, though. There's stuff for the good practice too. All rights reserved, right? This isn't for copy reproduction, anything like that. Any worksheets you're putting out there, any kind of templates and things, you do want to have that copywriting on there as well, so people aren't reproducing it and then selling it as their own. It does still happen, but if you wanted to take them to court, you'd have a way better case to sue them if needed.
So where do you see your own practice going? Can you talk about the vision? Because we have to be visionaries when we're looking at this. Where do you, what's your 3 to 5 year plan? What do you hope to kind of bring to the market? Where do you see things transforming? Just kind of future template, if you will, in EMDR terms.
Yeah, I love it. Future template it. So I have three branches to my business. So one is a separate business, but I still consider like I am the core of the businesses. So, the branches of the work that I have. So one is my clinical practice. So, which has now expanded into a group practice. I plan on adding another provider this year so that I can increase that. And we're doing like some part-time type stuff right now, some overflow stuff, but eventually I'm gonna build that out and see where we go with that. There isn't an expansion plan. I don't know if I'll ever get over a handful of clinicians because I don't want something massive, but I want to make sure that there's people doing really good quality work if I'm out there training people,
That
if I'm out there doing a
reminds
lot
me
of
of a clinic space. Is
consultation.
that what you're saying? A clinic
What
space.
is it?
You have a clinic
Yeah,
in-person space. Okay, so you have a clinic.
yeah,
Okay, good. So you want
yeah.
to,
So
okay.
yep, exactly. So the clinical work is still going to be there. I am still going to work with some different clients and different choice clients, absolutely, because I love that work. But I think that education for clinicians is huge. I think it's really important. I think that's how we make sure that more people get great therapy is if we're doing really
Exactly.
great clinical work, how can we teach others to do that too?
Yeah,
Like, how can we
exactly.
expand
That's
that?
my mission. Yeah, girl, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, because working one on one with a client, sometimes, and I heard somebody say this recently, like they felt like they were ineffectual just working with one client. But I always think of the web. And so if
Yeah.
I'm working with one client, then the web of people, the hundreds and thousands of people that they meet throughout their life, are going to be affected by the growth that that person has
Right.
achieved.
Yes.
And the same thing if I work with one therapist and they work with thousands of people throughout their career, and I was able to help them improve their skills, it then helps those clients, it then helps them, and just builds and builds and builds. Then that's millions of people I will have affected, hopefully in a positive way. And so it's like, how can we at these smaller
Yeah.
grassroots kind of moments build this huge tidal wave of help and change. So there's the clinical practice, and I want to again have really great clinicians in there, even working eventually with pre-licensed folks and getting them trained up really well so they can do great clinical work inside that clinical practice. And if they want to spread their wings and fly at some point, that's cool too. And then the other part, the other arm of it is clinician facing. So I have the good practice, which again, social community on one hand, but then on the other, the original reason I had it was sub communities for the folks that I do business and clinical consultation with, because it's a little cheaper for them to do it in groups rather than to do it individually, which is cost prohibitive for folks. And some of us don't have a big budget for that type of stuff. So there's those sub communities there, and I just plan to build that out more and more, provide CEUs, and just help clinicians over there while building a really wonderful community. So that's the clinician facing arm. And then there's the public facing arm. So individuals, and that's a different business because you don't want to have any clinical stuff with any sort of what could be considered psychoeducational or coaching type
Very good.
stuff. You want to spin those off into different businesses.
So that means for our
Always
listeners, different
protected.
LLCs. That's what that means, right? Okay.
Different LLCs, absolutely. So different LLCs, different bank accounts,
Uh-huh.
they are separate things, guys. As separate as you can make it. I'm always about protecting your butt.
Yeah.
And protecting that license because we worked a long time to get
Yes.
our license
Yes.
and
So
to get
don't
where
mix
we're
them.
at. So
Okay.
protect it. So over on that side, then it is more those public facing things of different courses and workshops and eventually even retreats and everything. I have this really wonderful one that I want to do on rage really bad for people. I think that it's like so of the moment, but I'm like, I don't, at this point, the good practice is my baby and focus this year, and I'll keep coming back to that one as needed.
So as we think about the resources and services you offer, my population that we serve with the podcast for is always client facing, but for the clinicians that are looking for the business coaching, that arm that you said, can you describe what those groups are, how to register, the costs, and where they can find you for that?
Yeah, so right now we're just getting everyone into the good practice, the general community of it. I'm launching the business and the EMDR subcommunities of it soon. Now, for the first few months, I'm thinking of doing actually a discounted rate on that because I'm building up resource libraries in there. So the good practice, you can find that on Mighty Networks. I'm sure Kathy is going to have a link somewhere at the bottom of the video where you can see that. And so for the general community, once we get to our over 500 members. Every member after 500, and we're approaching close. We're 400 and something members right now, and we just launched last month. So just letting people know, it will be $1 per month, and that's to keep the community running and everything, because it's going to need help, especially as it grows. It's going to sink in more costs. And I also pay monthly to keep the community alive right now as it is. So with that, we're launching those sub communities, and all that information will be shared in the good practice. And the two different sub communities, one's going to be for business, one's going to be for AMDR, and they're each going to have their own resource libraries. They're each going to have monthly calls in which we're talking about different topics. There's going to be different videos in those resource libraries. For the business community part of it, we're also going to do, I am a huge, like whenever we plan for the year, so I recently did just like a free, and in the general community, there's free events that we do and everything too. And that was goal structuring for the year. So when we're looking at our year 2025, so you're working on obviously, and there's 12 months, then there's 6 month goals, then there's quarterly, and then there's monthly. And it's how do we get this to snowball into each other? So I had somebody on there that is talking about how they wanted to launch this course, and I'm like, okay, well, what do we need to do to launch that? Like that's their big goal, is to have it launched into corporate clients by the end of the year. So the first 6 months is actually development of that course. So we broke down like what that would look like quarterly and monthly. And then the second part of it, it's like that next quarter, that third quarter, that is going to be whenever they focus on marketing and really beta testing and getting that all together. And then that fourth quarter is going to be full on marketing and launching that into the sphere. Now, that first 6 months, they're like, oh, but I need to do marketing, I need to do this, da, 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 da. And then we pile exactly, you pile everything up. I love it. You're like shaking your head, no. So this, like, yes, exactly. That's the vibe right there because you need to singularly focus on this. So whenever we break it up into these hunks, these chunks, we are saying, you know what, I'm giving myself the permission, my mental space to put that over there. And I don't have to think about it right now. I can just focus on this, which so many of us need and we never give ourselves the permission for. So that's one of those, like, that's one of those groups that'll be going each month is like, what are we actually focusing on and how are we making those small efforts then snowball into that big goal throughout the year?
I just so appreciate you. I am so grateful to have you in our market, in our lives, in our community. I just really, you've impacted my life, which impacts others' lives. So I love that visual. I just want to extend a lot of gratitude. Also, doing the momming with your baby. I don't know how old they are, but I had my twins and it was just really difficult in that infancy stage. So I just want to give you kudos for that as well and just recognize you and value you and know that we see you. And I appreciate you and everything you're doing. Is there anything else you would like to share? You've kind of shared where we can find you. Is there anything else you'd like to share in closing?
I don't think so. I always feel like those questions sort of
Yeah.
people pop up and I'm like, I don't know. And then later I'm like, oh, I guess I could have probably said that. So at the moment, no. But hey, I'm
Yeah.
sure give me 20 minutes. It's like, oh, I could have probably said that. Yeah.
Needing, right? Well, I'm a member of your community. I certainly appreciate you. You can find this video. I'm going to be doing some shorts of it through Opus AI, so you'll see that. And then also put it on YouTube and our Facebook group. So we appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And for our listening audience, we appreciate you. You can like and follow us on TikTok, Instagram. We talked about that, well, mostly Facebook. And we can visit me at rewired360.com. We have EMDR certification and consultation programs where we are your EMDR university. So we will see you next time, friends. Take care.